Okay, welcome back. It's been great hearing from those of you who I've heard from. If I haven't heard from you and you're watching my videos, please respond to something so that I know that you're out there and doing okay. Um, yeah, so let's just get started with what we're going to do this week. So this week our topic is going to be mainly about cancer, and then at the end of the week I'll give you an opportunity to do an interest-based project, either based on the cancer stuff that we talk about this week or from the nervous system stuff that we talked about last week. So cancer is caused by the cell cycle going wrong. So normal cells go through this process called the cell cycle, where the cells grow and divide, and we need that for many reasons. If you get cut or injured and you have to replace those cells, the process of just growing normally requires the cell cycle and making new cells. However, sometimes there is a mutation, and mutations can be caused by many different things, and we'll talk about those here in a few minutes. And mutations are going to cause the cell cycle to go wrong. So if we flip over here to the cell cycle, typically the cell cycle goes through this process where the cell is going to grow, the DNA will be copied, the cell will grow a little bit more before it actually divides. However, sometimes something happens that prevents this normal process from happening. So throughout the whole cell cycle here, there are checkpoints, and that's what these guys are here. This keeps popping up. There are many different checkpoints. So each of these little slats you see, there are checkpoints that check and make sure that the process is going correctly. And if the process was incorrect, the checkpoint should see that something happened, something's messed up, and it completely stops cell division and kills the cell because it knows some type of mutation has occurred. However, with cancer, something goes wrong with the checkpoint, and the checkpoint does not see that there's a problem. And what this is going to cause is it's going to cause the cell to keep growing and dividing uncontrollably until you have a mass of cells, which is called a tumor. So it'll look like this. You have normal cell here. Something happens, there's a mutation, and over time, you get a large tumor. Tumors can be small, they can be large. It depends on how long they are allowed to grow and how fast the cell cycle happens. So if the cell cycle is happening over and over and over very quickly, you're going to have a larger tumor. Whereas if it's growing uncontrollably, but it's not going quite as quickly, the tumor is going to be smaller. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the tumor is better if it's smaller. It can still be bad. So there are two types of tumors you can have. You can have a benign tumor, which is a tumor that does not spread. And as long as it's not in a certain part of the body, say a main portion of the brain, it can be removed and there will be no ill effects. So typically, when you think of a benign tumor, it's something like maybe skin cancer. Most skin cancers you can remove with no ill effects. My mom actually had a tumor about the size of a football in her stomach that turned out to be benign as well. So size doesn't necessarily mean benign. It can be a large benign tumor or a small benign tumor. The second type of tumor is called malignant, and malignant are the tumors that you typically think of when you think of cancer. These are going to be the type of tumors that can spread. So it might start off, say, in the skin, but if it goes untreated, its cells can spread. And the way that this happens is because, if you look here, these little pieces of the cells can break off. And if they break off and they go into the bloodstream, they can travel anywhere in the body. And then you'll have these cancer cells, many places in the body, growing their own tumors. And this is where cancer gets very harmful, because we can find, say they find a tumor in, I don't know, your intestine. You have a tumor in your intestine. And they test it, turns out it's malignant. So they give you a scan and they see if there's any other tumors in the body. But they don't find any tumors. So they remove the one that they had found, thinking that everything is okay. But if these cells had spread, say there was a cell in the heart, a cell ended up in the brain, But it's just a cell. It's not actually a tumor yet. It's just the cell. These cells will then divide in their location, and down the road, the person would end up with a tumor in the heart and in the brain. So it's very hard to detect where these cells have spread prior to the tumors arriving, because they could be anywhere in the body and they could be any size. They might not even started growing yet. And that's when they can become very dangerous. So this week we're going to explore a couple different things. If we go back to the modules, the first thing you'll do is listen to this video. So you're already doing well on that. I'll post a few questions in response to the video. Task 2 is going to be a case study. And in this case study, you're going to read the story of a young lady who finds out that she has a cyst. And you'll go through the whole case study. You'll read through the case study and answer the questions. Because I didn't know, this is a PowerPoint and it's not like a Google slideshow. So I've typed out all the questions down here in this other document. If you answer them as you go, you can just answer them in this document and then submit them. And then at the end of the week, there will be a choice research project where you get to choose the type of project you want to complete. And the choices are either from the nervous system unit or about cancer. So the last one is an option about cancer. The other ones are nervous systems among different organisms. What in the nervous system, what changes in the brain makes a psychopath a psychopath. And the other one is about acupuncture. So you choose one that you want to research and answer the questions. If you have one that you would like to do that's not listed, just reach out to me, let me know, and I'll give you approval. I'll probably be able to do whatever topic you would like, as long as it falls in one of those two categories, nervous system or cancer. But before we go, I have one last thing for you, and that is carcinogens. So I said many things can cause mutations. So mutations can be perfectly random. Some types of mutations are genetic, like the BRCA1, BRCA2 genes. Those can be genetic and passed down through family lines. However, a lot of mutations can come from these things called carcinogens, which are cancer-causing agents. So if I just Googled carcinogens and came up with some cool charts. So things that are possibly carcinogenic to humans: coffee, gasoline, exhaust fumes, welding fumes, pickled vegetables, odd, right? Carcinogens, frying and steroids, exposures to working in hairdressing and red meat. And if you notice, the higher up I go, the more carcinogenic they get. Smoking, exposure to UV radiation, so too much time in the sun can cause mutations. Alcoholic beverages and processed meat. So many of these things are around us all the time. And here's another cool little chart here. Pesticides, aerosols, car radiations, preservatives, sweetened juice, highly spicy foods, chewing tobacco, body piercings. I'm not sure, that must come from the metal lights in the body piercing. Tar from smoking, vinyl and paint, asbestos, sawdust. If you're in woodworking, that's why you want to put that mask on while you're sawing things, because some carcinogens are found in the wood dust. Different viruses and bacteria can cause mutations that can lead to cancer. One of the weird ones I like to tell students about is if you're cooking something like a hot dog, that black, thin, crispy part that can form, that's actually known to be a carcinogen. But that doesn't mean like, oh, you have a body piercing, or I don't know, you eat sweetened juice, drink sweetened juice, or you like burnt hot dogs. That doesn't mean you're gonna get cancer. It just means over time they build up in your body, and it increases the likelihood that you could get cancer. So these don't necessarily cause cancer. They can build up over time, and that build up over time can lead to mutations that could then potentially lead to cancer. It's just weird. I like to say that if you knew everything in the world that was a carcinogen, you'd be living a pretty poor life, because they're all around us all the time. So I wouldn't purposely put anything in my body that I know that would harm me, but if you tried to protect yourself from all carcinogens, you would be living in a bubble, almost literally. So that's what I have for you this week. If you have questions for me, email, join office hours. I've enjoyed office hours talking to those of you that have logged in. So yeah, thank you.